Last time out in Global Ventures, we said goodbye to 2024 by building an amazingly beautiful restaurant to complete Soul of the Amazon. This time around, we're bringing in 2025 by building 2 dueling coasters themed to warring Greek gods. So keeping things nice and calm to see in the new year then. Welcome to Odyssey of the Olympians. Hello everyone, it's M4J here, and welcome back to Global Ventures. And I was going to say 2024, but it's 2025 now. Happy New Year, everybody. We made it through another 12 months, and here we are in a new year, ready to hopefully build the best theme park that the world has ever seen. I am here at Soul of the Amazon. I can't drag myself away from this area, to be honest. Every time I go and try and do something else, I just keep coming back and listening to the music here at the River Rapids. It's just so catchy. Really good job. The music in this game, I don't think enough people talk about it actually, but it's so well done. It's really, really good. JJ Ipsum is the main composer, I believe, for Planet Coaster 2. He was also involved, or they were also involved, let's not assume. They were also involved with Planet Coaster's soundtrack, the first one, and Planet Zoo's soundtrack. And Planet Zoo, I think, is still my favourite soundtrack of any game ever made. So, very, very good job. And yeah, this music here, which I don't actually think is one of theirs, unfortunately. No, I've said all that, but it's still a very, very good piece of music and a very, very good soundtrack. A game needs a good soundtrack, let's put it that way. Anyway, I'm blithering on. Between episodes, I'm going to pause for a sec because we've got panicking guests again. I've started adding rockwork along here, which I think actually does look better now I've gone away and come back. I need to do something along here still, maybe just some hedges or something, and I need to put some rocks along the back here too. I did debate, I've done a little bit here, putting in some rockwork, putting in some bushes underneath the favela huts. And I like it, so I need to sort of work out how I'm going to do that for the rest of this. Maybe making the cliff face a bit sheerer and then putting bushes at the bottom. That could do it. And then something similar over here, and yeah, that should look a lot nicer actually. And then if I do something similar over here too, I think I might have just fixed a problem I had with this area, which was it still looked a little bit bland and a little bit boring. Yeah, let's see how that goes. Meanwhile, over here, I've started laying down the path that will eventually lead into Legends of the Frontier. As you can see, the pathway here actually continues to climb and will eventually equal the railway here. Although, saying that, if I switch my tabs quickly to look at my map, the dark ride for the old jailhouse is supposed to be in this sort of area here. And I think I might actually tuck it in slightly behind the River Rapids a little bit, sort of in this space. So the plaza for it would be around here. So I think the railway is actually going to straighten out a little bit, or just follow more of this trajectory, and then it will curve back, and then it will cross through the dark ride building like it has with Wonders of the World. And then that gives me room for a plaza, a facade building, and then the actual dark ride itself will be down on this level in its own building. So the railway would then pass over the top of that. I think that's better. I've also done this, which is the start of what actually today's episode is going to be about, which is Odyssey of the Olympians. This is our sort of ancient Greek mythology themed area, which is awesome because it's the first area of the park. As you can see, I've already been doing some work here. It's the first area of the park that is actually based on a Planet Coaster theme. So if I go here and do this. This is the mythology, which is, it's not just Greece. I think you can use it for Rome and things like that as well, but it's predominantly Greece. And yeah, this is all going to be used in this area of the park, including the ruins. There aren't going to be many ruins because the idea is you've been transported back to ancient Greece. There's no point doing that, and it's all going to be in ruins because ancient Greece was not. We see it now as being all ruins because that's what's left, but it's not. It used to be actual, buildings that people lived in and all that stuff. I'm waffling. Let's change subject. So this is all very much placeholder right now. I just wanted to get an idea for how things would look. You can also see I've drained the main lake again, which just makes this look really weird, especially where the rapids is. When this has got water in it, just adds so much to this area. And then every time I drain it to do landscaping, it just looks like I forgot to build something here, which It's probably true as well. Oh, I also moved the marquee, Soul of the Amazon. That now sits at the entrance here. I think this looks a lot nicer too. I'm also tempted to take the speaker from the bridge here and put it somewhere on this sign just to hide it a bit more. I think it'll still reach the ride down below. What balloon's that? Oh, it's a shark. I was like, that looks weird. So yeah, this is all placeholder still. It took me ages to get this where I wanted it, mainly because there's supposed to be an ancient Greek amphitheatre built on the banks of the lake here. And I think actually what I've accidentally done here is put it in the perfect position for something that I mentioned before, which was a fireworks show. So the idea would be you could gather in the plaza here, and you could gather on the amphitheatre here, and those are the two main viewing areas for a fireworks show that would be kind of here on its own little island. Got to be careful because there is meant to be a gondola ride, although I think that would go in that direction. So that should be fine. It would climb up and above so the sight lines wouldn't get too spoiled. Trust me though to build a fireworks show and then put a gondola ride right through the middle of it so you can't actually see it properly. There's also meant to be an island here, which is the main island of Vibes of the Islands. And then there's another island which is supposed to be around here, I think. And then a big island which is supposed to be here. But yeah, this took ages. I've done this, I think this is like the 5th iteration of this. Without the paths even, just digging all this out. So as you know, this is the lake where what was it? Oh, I've forgotten the name of the ride now. 1 second. Somerset Hills Plan. There we go. I think it's like Atlantis Aquatica, it's called. Yes. Atlantis Aquatica will sit on this lake. Water coaster, obviously. Max Super Splash, I think, is the actual name for it. It's the one with the turntables. I think Atlantica is the ride at Europa Park. So I'm trying not to make mine too derivative of that, but there's only so many things you could do with Atlantis and water when it comes to ride names. This space here is the one I actually want to focus on first today. This is going to be the home of Duel for Olympia, Hades versus Zeus, which is going to be a dueling launched coaster. I've actually got an idea for this. We'll see if it works. The idea I have is to make this where one side, possibly Zeus, is just a launched Mack coaster, which I think is on here somewhere. If I go... What's launched? That's launched. Big M. There we go. This one. So it's just going to be a conventional Mack launched coaster. Several inversions. Mainly airtime. All that stuff. Should be pretty cool. And then for the other, I think I'm going to go with... Oh, and I actually need to buy the DLC for this. A Mack spinning launched coaster. I think that's a good idea. And that would be Hades. So originally I was just going to build one coaster and have it dual that way with timings and things. Which may still be possible. But I do like the idea of having them distinctly different from one another. Even though that's kind of borrowing from what we've got in the Egyptian area with Antony and Cleopatra. If you don't know what that is, check out my first Global Ventures series on Planet Coaster, where I built those rides. Basically going to rebuild those rides as pretty much as they are, but with a massive difference, which doesn't make sense when I say it like that. But you'll understand when I build them. So I think what I want to do first is actually build the station building, which is quite rare for me. Normally you build the coaster first, and then you build the theming around it. But for this one, I've got a fair idea as to what I want to achieve. So I want to go away and actually build that. Now, originally, I was going to have a show building here for the station. I actually looked up what Mount Olympus would have looked like. Obviously, Mount Olympus is a real mountain. I did look this up, actually. Where is Mount Olympus? It's a very underwhelming looking mountain when you actually look it up in reality. It's an extensive massif. That's massive, M-A-S-S-I-F. It's not just me going, oh, it's massive. No, it's a massive. Near the Thermaic Gulf of the Aegean Sea. Located on the border between Thessaly and Macedonia. Yeah, That's cool. Actually, there's some really good reference images here. Sorry if my voice keeps fading, by the way. I've got 3 monitors here, and I've set them up so badly that you can't actually hear me when I'm looking at one of them. Let me just scooch that. There we go. That makes a huge difference. Why didn't I do that like a year ago? So Mount Olympus is a real place. Obviously, the mythology then took over and made it more fictional. I wanted to build a show building here to represent the sort of temple of the gods at the base of Mount Olympus, which if you Google Mount Olympus Greek mythology and stick it on images, I think it's the second one along the top row was my reference image, which I really liked the look of. But I'm actually tempted to take the whole thing and rotate it 90 degrees so that it sits here instead, and then the launch would come this way and out of the top of the mountain, which is what the plan was supposed to be. I've kind of given it away. I don't know why I keep everything a secret, but I'm just going to tell you. Both coasters are going to launch side by side out the top of the mountain. Kind of like Volcano the Blast coaster at King's Dominion before they closed it. I know people are still grieving over that, so I just wanted to rip the band-aid off on that one. But yeah, it could work in this direction still. We could build a show building. I keep saying show building, but it is literally just a station building. We could build that in sort of this area, and then just have the tracks come this way and out the top. Because I think from here, you would still just be able to see them, possibly. Whereas over here is more of the viewing area, even though this isn't actually part of that area of the park. I was also going to build a viewing area here for the river rapids. I think it's going to be on this little point here, little platform or something where you can just look at it. The other option, of course, is I just extend this plaza out a little bit more, and actually, yeah, I like that idea. Now I've said that out loud. So let me just do this. Kind of like that. And then this one like this. Live building, eh? You don't see me do this very often anymore. Not in this series, anyway. So let's do that one there. It's almost like a pathing tutorial, this as well. You get to see that. I don't know. This is one of the reasons why I didn't do this live before. Because I didn't want people to be commenting going, oh, you're doing it wrong. That's not how you do paths. But actually, I think my path... Whoops. He says as he closes the menu. I think his path building skills are actually quite good, was what I was going to say. But, yeah. Proved not necessarily the case. That, I think, would work better as a plaza design. So this is the plaza where the labyrinth thing was going to go, but obviously there's no mazes in the game. So we might just slap down a flat ride instead. And then there'll be a main path that heads off this way towards City of the Future. And then there's a main path that heads off probably in this sort of direction here. And that heads up towards Legends of the Frontier and basically forms a border around the coaster here. So I kind of like this now as a basis. So if I flatten off the ground here a little bit, this is actually perfect. We've got room for the plaza, which is what I wanted. We've got room for the show building, which is definitely what I wanted. I'm just going to keep calling it a show building. You know what I mean. The building where the station goes. And then we've got space for the launch, which is definitely what I wanted. I feel like there's one landscaping tool that's just missing still from this game. But I can't really explain what it is. It's like if you flatten to foundation, which is what I just did. I do this a lot to start with, and then I shape stuff around things. This is fine, but I'm like cutting into that. So I think there should just be a set to height button, like here. And you could right click here, even though that closes the window. Maybe double click or just click once to set the height, and then click here, and it will just set this land to this height. And then I don't have to do this weird clicky draggy, it's not quite what I wanted thing. I don't know. We'll see. Okie dokie. We're good to go, I think. So I'm going to go away and build the station building for the ride here. I'm probably also going to build the coaster stations themselves, as well as the queues, I think. And then that should give us an idea as to how much space we've got to build the rest. I'm also anticipating that this plaza here is going to look very, very different next time you return. I think because I liked the idea that I've built over here of this multi-leveled plaza, which kind of shows more in the restaurant itself, which is getting used. Some people, I love the fact, I put this on Reddit, and someone said that the layout of the tables here was interesting, shall we say. It was done deliberately, the idea being that there's a main walkway here up to the restaurant entrance, but I also wanted there to be a bit of a walkway around here. So you can see like this way would be the main way in. And you can also imagine over the years people have sort of shifted tables around as they've gotten up and sat down and things like that. Or, you know, there might have been two families that came together, so they dragged a table into this space so they could sit next to each other, and similar thing over here. And over time, like, imagine these were all neatly laid out once, and then over time someone's just come along and slowly moved them. Like this one here is right up against the rocks now because this fella here wanted to sit in the shade, and at the time he arrived the ones with umbrellas were taken. Like, it kind of adds that little backstory and lore to the park, which I like. It's not for everyone, I admit, but I like it. Anyway, yeah, I'm delaying. So I like the idea of the split level plaza, so I might in fact cut this plaza in twain. Cleft it in twain, that's the expression, and then that means I don't have to have stairs here. This could come out flat onto this section, and then we can have stairs that link the two together. I like that idea because the pathway that runs along the side here is going to be climbing anyway, and then there's this massive mountain in the middle, 100-foot high mountain, which I need to measure how tall that is as well. But yeah, that gives you an idea as to what this is going to look like in just a second. So I suppose I better go build the damn thing now I've said it out loud. Here we go. This is going to be the first coaster of the park. My aim is to get this coaster finished by the end of this episode, which is very ambitious, and I'm probably going to have to push the publishing back a week because of it. But we'll see how it goes. For now, let's just build a station. Okay, so I've gone a little bit mad here, so hear me out. First of all, station building kind of done. I feel like I need to add some more detail to these side bits here. You'll see what those side bits are in just a second. The main building itself, I'm pretty happy with it. I don't think there's much that I can add to the facade here, at least. Some lights, actually. Now I've said that out loud, that would be useful because it is quite dark. In there it's quite dark as well, but you'll see what that is also in just a moment. So, if I zoom out a little bit, you'll see exactly what this is all hiding. You'll also see a slight issue that I've created for myself, which I have tried to fix. You'll notice that the track and the path here has changed configuration again. But, yeah, I ran out of room. I've not given myself much space here at all. I thought I had loads of space, and I kept looking at it thinking, this area is going to be massive. And now I'm looking at it like, this area is going to be tiny. But, you know, it should work still. The fact that this lake is also part of it, and if I look at my map, I've actually got all of the base things in here, apart from the restaurant, which might be relocated to sort of this area here. The restaurant might actually even be located over here where the gift shop was going to be, because the gift shop is now inside the roller coaster, which makes more sense, I think, but we'll see. I'll keep saying we'll see. This might change. This might even get removed. We'll see. Ha, I just said it again. Right, so we've got two coasters in here. We've got Hades and we've got Zeus. This is Zeus, believe it or not. I did some Googling while I was building all this because I wanted to get an idea for colour schemes. And I looked up what colour is known, or what colour is Zeus known for wearing. And it turns out the answer was purple, which is quite odd because purple was the colour I was going to give Hades. Turns out Hades is blue. Which I guess if you've watched Hercules, that works. He does wear, well, he has blue hair, and he wears like a black or dark grey robe type thing. Anyway, Zeus is purple, and then if I swing through the building here and out the other side, whoop, there we go. This is Hades. Now Hades' transfer track is a lot shorter than Zeus's because the trains are a lot shorter. I apparently just hit puberty halfway through that sentence there as well. So the transfer tables are in place. I need to actually make them still. Obviously not functional, but it is what it is. And then we've got these, which are the queues. So again, we've kept the theme. We've got the light blue here for Hades, and it spirals its way down. We'll talk about that in just a second. And Zeus's comes out this way and then navigates its way down the hillside here, pops back in over there, and you've seen this already. The queues pop out It's the right hand side here for Hades and the left hand side here for Zeus. And you might be wondering, what are the other queues? Well, these are the priority queues. I thought I lit this up. I did light this up. There we go. It's just very, very dark. I don't know how well you can see this on the screen. Actually, it's not too bad on your screen. It's a bit bad on mine because I've got sunlight shining off the monitor here. We've got a bit of switch backing going on. There will be some elements, theming elements, inside here. I was really tempted to do what the film Hercules did, the animated Disney film, not the live action one, and have loads of pots around and have singing muses. Were they muses? I think they were the muses. But that's going to be an absolute faff, so I probably won't end up doing that. But yeah, these are the main queues, as you can see, and then it goes out there and it swirls up towards the station building. This is the priority queue, which is basically, oh god, it's so dark. It's basically just a straight line. It goes along here like this, it goes along here like this, and then at this point here, they join up again. And I just don't know how well you can see this, but that's the main queue at the top there, and then that's the priority queue underneath. And then I'll get ready for the big reveal. We come through this area here, and this is the station. This I'm happy with. This works quite nicely. If I show you the individual walls, this is Zeus on the left-hand side here. We've got all the curtains and the lighting and everything in Zeus's colours. And on the right-hand side here, we've got Hades and all of his stuff. I think this works quite well. The exit is in the middle here. It splits halfway down. That's just to make it symmetrical, to be honest. There's no logical reason for that. One other thing... Oh, God. Keep going through things. One other thing I was tempted to do here was have another set of lights somewhere in this building, and as the trains dispatch, have a dispatch sequence. But that's something that probably won't be considered until the coasters themselves are actually finished. So you saw Zeus's queue. I'll just show you Hades's queue quickly as well. We'll do it in reverse. So comes up this way, through here, across this bridge. I love the way the lighting works in this game. It is actually very, very realistic in some cases, but if you have a lighting leak, it's very, very annoying. But yeah. Right, we slope down here like this. There is a story element to why the queues are like they are, because Hades' queue goes into a tunnel here, which is lit. You can see I've got some lights up here. And again, it's brighter. Oh my god, it's brighter on your screen than it is on mine. I'm going to go into T-cam mode for this, I think. There we go. As you can see, it's more well lit than it looks. And then this just slopes its way down like this and emerges here and goes back into the building. Now, I will try and block off the light there. We'll see how that goes. So the story element to it is Zeus obviously lives in Olympia. So outdoors, this will all be gardens and things like that, and you're ascending Mount Olympus. Hades lives in the underworld, so it's all dark tunnels and things like that. So that's what this is. Obviously at this stage here, he is also ascending to Olympia, because how else is he going to fight Zeus if they're in separate places? And then the ride story takes place from there. You'll also notice I've got the lightning bolt and the flame at the entrance here. I think that flame is okay. I might just make it a little bit smaller so that it doesn't encroach. And then in the middle here, again, wait for the lighting to adjust, we have a gift shop. So we've got two stores on this side. I think it's a Hats Fantastic and a Just a Memento. And then this side is a Just a Memento and a Looney Balloons. I think this is fine. I was tempted to put other stuff in here too, but I couldn't really think what. Maybe a toilet at the back, but besides that, I couldn't really think of what would need to go here. Actually, I could fit... Yeah, I'm pretty certain I could actually fit a toilet in there. Maybe we'll see about that. The lighting, again, is fine. It works. That's the main thing. Now I've got to actually build the coaster. That's going to be the interesting bit. Oh, and I think I've also said this, but these are the maintenance sheds. So it's empty at the moment. I'm not going to fill it with anything. I'm going to cover these doorways so that it's not obvious that there's anything here. I was toying with the idea of putting a mechanics workshop in here, just so mechanics actually walk in and out during the day. And I've got this path here that connects up to the main path. You can imagine they transport vehicle bodies and stuff in and out using the actual path system. If you picture, let's see, if you drive along here, actually I'm trying to think how it would work. I was going to say they bring them out this section here, but how do they get under the railway? Maybe that's not what they do. Maybe they go somewhere else. Maybe they'll go through the water park or so. I don't know. We'll sort that out. I haven't done Hades' one yet, but it would basically come around here and probably link up with this side here, or it would follow this around. And there is a path that's going to go up this side, so it'll probably join up with that. I don't know. So yeah, the problem I've made for myself is this pillar here is 8 walls tall, and each wall is 4 meters, I believe. Actually, that doesn't sound right. Yeah, you're 4 meters tall. That is right. So according to this, that's 32 meters, which is 104 foot tall. I said in my preview video that the mountain would be 100 foot tall. As you can see, I've actually gone over that a little bit. I think it's more like 115 foot maybe when you actually work it out. The coaster needs to launch through this space here and out the top of the mountain, which I've actually put there, but it should be here. Did not mean to do that. Oh, I thought I double middle clicked then and it opened it. It needs to launch out the top of the mountain, and then it needs to duel itself and race its way down, and then it still needs to finish here and over here, of course. I've left myself quite a lot of work to do here. It's also the fact I wanted this coaster to duel because it's called Duel for Olympia. The way I've set this up, I think if it all came this, so if it launches out the mountain and then works its way down the mountain over here, we can have a nice duel. If I did what I wanted to do, which was to have them launch together, head off in their respective directions, and then meet up for certain elements like dueling dragons that Islands of Adventure used to do, I would encounter the problem of meeting this pathway pretty damn quick. I also wanted part of Zeus to head over this part of the queue, and I wanted part of Hades to head over this part of the queue. That may still be possible. What, how I would actually achieve that, I don't know. I don't really know anything about this layout other than they duel. So I'm probably going to have to go away and do some thinking. The next time you see this, it will likely be track work complete. This is also the first coaster I've built on this game, so I'm not feeling 100% confident right now. But I'm going to go away, see what I can come up with. You'll probably find that a lot of this will have been dug out again to run the tracks through, and then we'll replace it all afterwards. So leave it with me. Let's see what I can come up with. Several hours later, and there's been a big change. We have 2 massive roller coasters. They are not complete. I just want to say that now. They are partially complete. But over here we have got Zeus, the purple one with the yellow, which I am thinking of changing because I don't like it. And we've got Hades as the blue. They both do their own thing. They do meet up in a couple of places, and they don't really duel very well. That might be something that I can change in the future. We will see. There's no dueling feature in the game at the moment anyway. You can't synchronize rides, so it seemed a bit pointless forcing it too much. But if I show you how the rides work, actually the best way of doing it would be if I show you them dueling. That'd be cool. He says after just saying they don't duel. But you'll see what I mean in just a second. One of the big problems, I think, is that Hades actually launches quite a lot earlier than Zeus does, which you'll see now. Oh, no, that was the other way around. Actually, that might make a difference. So you see here, they do kind of interact on the stall and whatever you want to call this element. It's not a Cobra roll, and I'll show you why in just a second. But then Zeus gets a massive head start, and Hades gets left in the dust. They do kind of interact here as well. But all these elements, like this one here and this one over here, where they're designed to cross over one another, yeah, that doesn't really happen, which is kind of frustrating. Or at least the trains don't cross over one another, which is frustrating. And then Zeus gets there first. I'm just going to stop Zeus before it crashes. And then I'm going to stop Hades before it crashes. I think with actual synchronization, this would work a lot better. But if I show you... Where's testing? There it is. If I show you Hades again, I'll describe the ride. Sorry, if I show you Zeus again, I'll show you the ride as is. So we start off with a little pause here, and then off we go. And then it launches into this hang stall. Very much like the one on Hyperia, although I think the one in Hyperia is in reverse. So it flips first and then dives, whereas this one climbs and then flips. Nice slow speed. Pretty happy with that. Then we come into what I like to call the tricky area. This took me the longest bit to get this part of the track correct. For Zeus, it was actually quite easy. Do a little Stengel dive type thing there, which takes us down to ground level. Little bunny hop into a banked curve, over into a elongated corkscrew, another sort of Stengelish dive, bit of an airtime hill here, and then it leaves this section. Now obviously this bit of track here is a little bit troublesome. What I could do is have this dive further, take out this hop kind of thing, or maybe just lower it, and then have it climb up into this weird element. They're not really corkscrews, they're not really 0G rolls, they're just inversions. I don't know what you'd call it, the Zeus roll, maybe. That dives it under the Hades bridge here, goes up into another airtime hill, another banked curve, and then up through a double up into the block breaks. I'm quite happy with that. I think it looks quite good. Zeus I built first. Zeus was the easy one. Hades is the thorn that continues to stick into my side. This one was a nightmare. You'll see now why. So we come out the station. Again, we pause on the launch track. I was debating having you be able to see one from the other. That is something we could still do, but I can't really change the launch track locations now. Anyway, this was supposed to be a banana roll. And then I was debating making it an elongated banana roll, which it technically is. But in the end, it's actually more of an Immelman followed by a wraparound corkscrew. If you see the way it kind of enters and leaves this element here. I think it's still good, particularly for a spinning coaster. Does that support get in the way? I think that support gets in the way. Maybe not. It looked like the train just went straight through it. I don't know. Then we come up into this sort of overbanked curve, which is designed to get the trains to spin, which it sort of does. Then we go into this overbanked curve, which again is designed to make the train spin, which it is starting to do. Then we've got this. Now this was the tricky bit. I was trying not to remove too many supports on Zeus, but I was also trying to get this to interact, but in the opposite direction to Zeus. In the end, I had to go with the same direction. But the idea was meant to be that they pass one another. Now you might have seen that as Hades came under the corkscrew, Zeus went over it, which is fine. But then this is the reason that Hades falls behind, is this overbanked curve. But really, I think it needs it, because if I just build this down and around like this, you can't really see Hades from anywhere on any of the paths. Whereas if I do this, look, bam, there's Hades. Plus it gives a nice interaction with Zeus's queue here. We then go up into what is arguably my favourite element on both rides. This sort of inverted, I don't know what you'd call this, an opposite corkscrew type thing. Where you'd expect it to go bank to the right and go over. Whereas here it banks to the left. Very much like the weird inversion / overbank on Hyperia. Considering this is a Mack spinning coaster, I thought they might be experimenting at this point. I think that is a really neat inversion, particularly for an extreme spinner. Then we come into the boring section, where it just sort of hops around a little bit. This wall will get removed. And then we come into a 0G roll over the queue here. And I'm just looking to see. I think that's enough clearance. It looks like enough clearance. And then it just climbs up into the brakes. Now, originally, this also followed Zeus around in this direction, but it actually ran out of steam, and that's why even here the block brakes are a little bit lower. All in all, I think this is fine. as a couple of dueling coasters, apart from the fact that they don't really duel very well. If I start Hades first and then Zeus, that might be one of the reasons as well. Although I'd like to think if you unpause, if you do it while paused and then unpause, they should dispatch at the same time. When I did it the first time around, Hades came out first. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, Zeus is still launching first. Have I done something to the track by mistake? I literally, I tested it, made sure it worked, and then didn't touch it again. Before starting recording here. So I don't know quite what's happened there. Launch delay of 3 seconds. You have a launch delay of hopefully 3 seconds. It could be the speed. Yeah, 3 seconds. Yeah, that's a mystery. I actually don't know what's happened there. You're testing. You're testing. Let's see what happens this time around. If Hades comes out first... In fact, that's pretty much in sync. Ah! Ahaha. Okay, I might have just sussed it. I think because Zeus has a longer train, it comes out first. And then it stops first, and then because of that, it launches first. That makes more sense. But we do get this bit of interaction here, where they do come close to one another. Plus, they don't technically have to duel. They just have to look good from the ground. Which I would like to say they do. And it's pretty close. You know, they're not far apart from one another. Ah, I'm not going to get there in time. It's alright, didn't count. Okay, so it's fine. It'll do. As a concept, it works. The second half of the ride... Oh, you might have also seen I've absolutely decimated the landscape here now. Built it all up, made it look like a lovely mountain, and then just carved a hole straight through it. Them's the brakes. That's how it works, I'm afraid. So the second half of the ride is going to fall into what used to be Mount Olympus. Eventually it will be Mount Olympus again, but this is kind of more of a close quarters type thing, which is why I want to make sure that these rides do actually duel. You'll notice that Zeus launched about a second or two before Hades, and it arrived in the brakes here about a second or two before Hades. So I think if we keep it like this, it should work. It should duel, it should, you know, function as it should. So the plan is to drop off the brakes. I was tempted to just have it drop straight down. Or maybe have Hades do a beyond vertical drop of some description and Zeus do like a rolling drop. That could work. Like a, not quite like a death roll, but something similar to a death roll. That could function. We'll see about that. And then it'll just do lots of like spaghetti bowl type things here. Hades needs to come over here to end. Zeus, which I'm assuming Zeus will have a little bit more gas in the tank anyway. But Zeus needs to get over here. So I think there's a little bit... Why is that support allowed to exist there? That's a good question. I don't know. I am going to go turn some of these supports off towards the end. Like every other piece of track. This is the 4 meter method, by the way, that I've used here. Some may argue that it's worked better than my previous attempts at coasters on Planet Coaster 1. Some might say that this is a poor attempt at building a coaster in any game. But we'll see. But yeah, the point is, Hades I don't think has as much momentum because it's a smaller train. Zeus has a little bit more momentum. I was actually debating, if I increase Zeus to 6 carriages again, what does that do to its speed? That's an interesting question that I now want the answer to. First of all, does that change how long it takes to get out of the station? I think, if anything, that would shorten the time because it would push the front of the train forward slightly. That's a good speed on the stall. It's pretty good there. I might leave this as a 6-car train then, you know. This all seems like a good speed. There's clearance there. There's clearance there. That's a nice roll. I like that roll as well, by the way. I was really happy with that. And then that airtime pop People are going to talk about that in the car on the way home. That's going to be the Reddit thread. Oh, Zeus's airtime is extravagant and all that. Extravagant? That's not really the right word, but you know what I mean. Okay, I'm blithering. It's late. I've been doing this for a long time. I'm going to go build the second half of these coasters, and then we'll come back and we'll possibly hop on for a little bit of a ride. Okay, so a couple of days and many failed attempts later, this is what I have come up with. I think, as individual coasters, these are very strong layouts. In terms of the dueling aspect, it's not quite there. It's very close, but it's not quite there. There's a couple of elements missing. But I think once they add synchronization into the game, I think I'll be able to just go back and make one or two little tweaks here and there and actually get this synced up and properly dueling, or at least get it to meet up at certain key points, which is what this ride was originally supposed to be about anyway. So let's talk you through the layout, the second half of each layout, and then I'll show you what I've done with the color scheme, because you'll notice that's changed as well. And then I'm going to talk about a little problem that I've had or noticed whilst building this and how I think I'm going to fix it. And think is a very strong word here. So first of all, let's talk about Zeus. So off the brakes, little dive, and then it goes into this diving drop. Very similar to what we've got. Where is it? It's kind of the inverse of this one on Hades, which I kind of like. I think that's good symmetry. There's sort of like a hidden storyline to this ride as well, which I'll talk you through in a little bit as well. But yeah, Hades does this diving Zeus, does this diving drop with the inversion in the middle, then goes into an airtime hill. Now this is the trickiest part, getting this curve in here as well, and you'll see the clearance is very, very, very limiting here, and the pull out from this, I think it's fine on this side, but when you look at it from certain angles, it does look a little bit off. But I think that might just be me being me. But yeah, we go into this airtime hill. We then dive down into this. Now I'm actually very, very tempted to turn this into a shape similar to what I've done over here. I've changed the profile of this slightly as well, so that it continues to, the actual drop ends around here, and then the climb begins almost immediately after. Because I like that. I think that looks cool. So I might do that again over here, but that does create a bit of an issue with the landscape here, but more on that in a second as well. God, I've got a lot to remember to talk about in this section. It then climbs up into this curve, which goes underneath Hades. Originally it went over the top, but then when I was smoothing, it kind of pushed the track a little too close and the clearance was a bit off. And then this is the bit I'm not a huge fan of here. It straightens out and then goes back into a banking curve, and I kind of had to do that because of the length of this section. You see it's very straight here, and there wasn't much I could do really to change that apart from pull this in, but in doing so I think I was sacrificing the curve here. I could fix that by maybe straightening this bit out a bit more and then having it go up and around, but I don't know, maybe I'll just leave it. We then go into a Blue Fire homage, tribute, whatever you want to call it, with this slightly off heartline roll, which I think Blue Fire's goes the other way, but this one goes clockwise. That then dives underneath the two launch tracks, which you'll notice are also enclosed. I'll have to remember to talk about that in a minute as well. And then we climb up the other side here and go straight into the brakes. And again, this bit here kind of is a compromise, but I think it works in the grand scheme of things. The heart lining is there, and I think it's the heart lining that actually makes it look a bit stupid, but I'm pretty confident that that is actually fine. And then it comes to a gentle stop in the magnetic brakes here, and then hits the friction brakes and heads into the transfer table. As for Hades, we've got another tribute here, this time to Time Traveler at Silver Dollar City. So coming off of the brakes, we do a little dive here just to build up some momentum. I've kind of built both of these with the thought in mind that there may be a possibility that a train gets stopped on both of these. So it's coming off the brakes at 8 miles an hour, not 15, which is the normal running speed. So it does the little dive here, climbs up, goes into this, which is a 92-degree drop. I can't remember what Time Travelers is, but I just tried to make this one as steep as possible whilst making it look realistic. And 92 came up. So I thought, yep, that looks good. Dives down into this hole, goes underneath basically everything, climbs up into this overbank curve, which I think is better than the one we've got over there. Although both are pretty strong. One goes to the right, one goes to the left as well. Good, I remember to do them in opposite directions. Yeah, I think this works nicely. It then climbs up here into a dive loop, which is kind of the opposite to what it does over here. And then from here it kind of goes into the lull section as well, where it just climbs up underneath the overbank, up into a little bit of an airtime pop, and then just rises up into the brakes. Both second halves here are quite weak in terms of how they look and how they function. One thing I was tempted to do as I was doing this was move the brakes to face this way and then use this space here a little bit more. One of the biggest issues I've had, and yeah, I might as well get into that now. This takes up a lot of space. In terms of its actual footprint, each ride is quite linear. It comes out this way, goes back, comes out this way, goes back, and then has a little spaghetti bowl section. In terms of both rides together, it is quite a lot of real estate. If I zoom out, you know, you look at Soul of the Amazon, pretty much this entire area here, this coaster would take up that entire space, which is a bit of a pain. Bearing in mind, Odyssey of the Olympians is sort of all of this, and quite a lot of it is taken up by these two coasters. I'm really having trouble with scale in this park at the moment, and that might become even more evident as we build more coasters. It might end up being the inverse problem, and I end up, you know, condensing everything too much. But scale is the biggest issue I've had so far. I think, though, it is fine. One thing well, you see I've enclosed the launch sections here. If I start placing rockwork on this, which is the plan, and build up to the back of this building here, I think it's going to come to this section. You can kind of see where this support comes out the back of Hades. Do it to there on both of them. I think that is a good place to build the top of Mount Olympus. And then you start to see that actually the mountain isn't that tall, things aren't that big, and this path even can be brought back in towards the mountain a little bit more, and then that creates more of a space. That then opens up having the old jailhouse back where it was, because I was tempted to actually move it over this side of the path and have Bandito then occupy this section. But I think actually if the path comes around this way and almost forms the loop, and then this would be the little plaza, and then the old jailhouse would come off it in this direction, and I think that actually works very, very well. The other thing I wanted to do was lower this section here, have the main path come around at a higher level, and then have a little drop down section and a plaza that overlooks the coaster here. That could be nice as well. We could put a little food truck or something there, and then maybe all of this section here could get flattened as well. And then on this side, we could put a building over the brakes here, and then maybe some rockwork underneath it, and then actually flatten all this and put a flat ride in, because the path here curves immediately round inside the hill. So if we just flattened all of this to a similar level to the path as it comes down the slope here, we can actually put an extra ride in here, which is something that we wouldn't have had access to before. I think at that point, when I start improvising, the park actually ends up being majorly improved. One thing I have done with Zeus, but not yet with Hades, is ride it and do a POV. I mainly did it for clearance checks. And again, apart from this section here, which I haven't seen on the new POV, I think everything else is pretty much okay now. I had to do a little bit of adjustment over here, where it dives underneath, because people were whacking their heads on the ceiling here, but that's now fixed. Same on this side. And then there was another section up here, coming out of this overbank curve, where it was a little too close to Hades. So we've... or I've lowered this section as well to make it work a little bit better. This section here, it looks really, really high up, but once we start putting the rock work in, the fake rocks are basically going to cover all of this black building, and then you'll see that actually it's just riding on top of the mountain ridge. And then it again makes a bit more sense. If you go onto the reference image that I was talking about, you'll notice that a lot of the temple of Olympia is actually inside, or you know, it goes into the mountainside, and that kind of makes sense here as well. If we place rocks all the way along here, and maybe even some rock work in this gap here as well, and build some kind of archway over this. This side I have no idea what I'm going to do yet, because the mountain, I wanted it to sort of come over this area as well, and that explains why this section of track and this section of track is still quite high. And here we could have Hades maybe dive back into the mountain and then emerge again. That kind of idea. There is a hidden story to this ride. I think I've just said that already, but I'll try and remember to talk about all of it now. So obviously it's Hades and Zeus, the two brothers, battling for the right to be king of the gods. Poseidon, I don't know where Poseidon is in all of this. Poseidon's just sunbathing in the sea or something, I don't know. But in terms of the two brothers here, it's a lot of toing and froing. So you'll see at the start, Zeus floats over the top of Hades. So Hades rises up and immediately drops back down again. Whereas Zeus stays up for a little bit longer, because at this point, Zeus is in, you know, pole position, top dog. Then when we get to this section, Zeus falls, Hades rises. It sounds like BS. I promise you there was actually some thought into this. There's a lot of toing and froing here as well. You'll also notice in the first half of the ride, every time the two rides cross one another, Zeus is on top of Hades. So here, the track for Zeus is on top of the track for Hades. Here, track for Zeus on top of the track for Hades. Over here, technically Hades is higher, but it doesn't cross over. The support does, but the actual track doesn't. And then here, Zeus does the inversion over the top of Hades. It's only here, the first time that Hades actually gets on top. And here. Then there's a little bit here where Zeus regains control. And even on the block section here, Zeus is still on top of Hades. You see? But then in the second half of the ride, the original plot for this, and that might still end up being the case, is they've left Olympia and they now dive into the underworld, which is Hades' domain. And at this point, Hades is more in control. Although saying that, because I built Zeus first and then threaded Hades through afterwards, there is no real point apart from here where Hades is on top. So I kind of lost the plot a little bit here, quite literally, because I was just trying to get the two tracks to fit. At this point, yeah, it does sound a bit more like BS, doesn't it? There was a storyline to all of this, I promise you. There was actually a plan for the majority of this, and then, yeah, necessity outweighed artistry at the end. But I like the idea of, you know, every ride has kind of an intricate story it's somewhat subtle. It's not slapping you in the face. You kind of have to go looking for it. Also, I really like the way these supports do kind of interact with one another. You can't quite, I mean, there's a little bit of overlap there. I don't know if I can actually fix that, but there were some earlier. Might be able to find them again. Where were they? I think it was over here, where they were so close to touching, but they just about avoided one another. It was really, really cool. All the land under here, I am going to lift up. I'm still tempted to sort of build a land bridge over the top of this and then stick the rocks to that. It is possible to just stick the rocks to the side of the building here, which was the original plan. That might end up being what happens. The other thing is inside here, I want there to be special effects. So with Hades, it's going to be flames. And with Zeus, it's going to be lightning bolts coming out. Also, the lighting in here is looking a lot better now with the tunnel here in situ. I was tempted to put doors across here, but I really, really don't know on that one. Let me know in the comments if you think I should put doors in. I also need to put a little wall in at the edge there on both sides, I think. Maybe not this side. And then for the queue in here, I need to sort of wall this bit off as well and actually have them. I'm tempted just to make them individual rooms, depending on which queue you're in. That might help with the lighting a little bit. Or I just leave it open. I could just leave it open. Health and safety might have a fit over it, but yeah. The last thing was to do with the access here. So as you can see, we've got access to the storage barn, the maintenance barn. This support has actually ruined everything in terms of that. Bit of a pain. Not really sure what I can do about that, though, other than tighten up the curve here, which doesn't really help. You could just say that they drive around this very carefully onto this section. As for how to get to Hades' barn, well, there's kind of an answer staring us in the face, but it depends on clearance. What if they just use this? and actually have this be practical. Put the doorway here. Somehow, could maybe build an overlap here. Move this fence out a little bit and have it so that they use this bit as like a roadway. I don't know. Again, let me know what you think about that in the comments. That might be a good solution. It might be causing more problems than it solves. Let me know. Other than that, though, the ride is basically done. The coasters are in place. Everything's looking awesome. I think overall this will be good once it's all themed and everything. We need to still do the gardens over here. Oh, I also need to lift the terrain back up in this section as well. Now that the ride is actually in place, we can go and fix some of these scars that I created, putting it all in. Like here, for example, this can all be lifted back up. We can put some foliage in, put some nice bushes, flowers, trees, all that good stuff. Lots of rock work as well, and try and make this look a little bit prettier. Almost like, I don't know, it's Mount Olympus or something. That would be a good idea, wouldn't it? There is one more thing actually I need to do regarding the pathway here, which I've just remembered. Yeah, I need to redo how this path works. I think my plan is going to be to curve it like this. If I could pull this off, actually, this would be cool. Do this and then bring it around like so. And then with that, yeah, that connects. How does that actually look, though? It's not terrible. This bit looks stupid. And actually, we might get a bit too close to Hades there. We might have to put some don't be an idiot fencing in. The other option, of course, is we just go straight and just cover this bit with bushes. And to be honest, that's probably a better alternative. Oops. There we go. Yeah, that probably works better, actually. I'm also debating changing the colour of the fencing here, but I think it's actually okay. Let's go into pool mode. There we go, and we'll just fix some of this as well. Again, now that we know where the track is actually going, we can do a lot of fixing with the landscape here and just make it look a little bit nicer again. I like this bit, this interaction here. And when you've got the fence, the main path here with the fence and everything, I think it'll look a lot nicer. Excellent. That's basically it then for this episode. Between episodes, I'm going to do some theming here. Majority of it will probably be done in the next episode or as part of the next episode. And then the next episode will also be the construction of the water coaster, which is going to fill... It's probably going to be more on this alignment now with this path. So this plaza will be made a lot bigger. It's probably going to come down here and then back along. And then we'll put a flat ride or something in the middle here as well. And then it'll curve around. And then there'll be that other one that I said about. Or the restaurant actually might go here. Or the restaurant might go... I don't know. There needs to be a restaurant. There needs to be at least one flat ride. A water coaster. And we might even make provision for the boat dock, which I think is around this area, if memory serves. Although I'm tempted to actually bring it in and put it over here and have the boats come in and out. But that might be too much of an ask as well right now. Overall, yeah, happy, good. Got 2 coasters functioning. First 2 coasters of the park. My coaster building skills will improve. I will put POVs of both of these at the end of this video, as well as up on the channel separately, so you can check those out. And then once they're themed, I'll record new POVs. Have I lost the support system here? I have a little bit, but I think the track spine sort of makes up for that. Stop talking, Mark. End the video. POVs. Look out for those in just a second. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. And of course, if you're enjoying the series so far, drop some comments down below with ideas for future episodes. Feedback on these as well would be nice. Any tips and tricks? Like, is there anything these buildings are missing? Like trim or something like that? I feel like these are very basic. But when I looked up inspiration for this is basically what it looked like, which is interesting. But yeah, let me know down below if there's anything you think I could add to improve things. This plaza will get decorated a lot more in the future as well. It's a bit basic right now, I admit that. But otherwise, yeah. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button. If you have already subscribed to the channel, thank you for your continued support. Enjoy the rest of your evening and enjoy the POVs coming up now. And until next time, I will see you soon.